on +4477205703007, or you can actually join us via Zoom. Just log into Zoom and put meeting ID 248-453-7363. That's Umma Connected, and you'll be live on air. You can share your views. This is a discussion program. It's the global conversation community or global community conversation, and therefore that's where you get an opportunity to talk. It's not just us talking down at you. We're actually having a conversation with you. We hear from you and we tell you what we managed to get. Okay, so it is easy, inshallah. When you're ready, and we just kick off. All right, hello. Tutandika mukadde mpawe kaga ndaba how many are we here on Zoom so far? 9 and coming in. We shall allow people to log in and log in and log in and log in and log in.
Jimmy, you know.
The messages in put as a pinging or pinging as well as video. What's up with you? Huh? All right, so that you can get the messages straight. Okay, yeah, they can actually text us. Yes, and 13 people now are going. All right, so I want to start. I want to get started. Video. How are you playing a video? And that's what we joke screen. We need that. Keeping the time is very, very crucial. 8 o'clock a corner and they were on. People are waiting. You just want to make sure, at least while you want people to come on, you still as well want them to be able to last minute. So sisters Dawa. They can now join us now, please. Okay. When you're ready, and I just go to the video. Okay, that's Hello, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us. It is come, let's talk that conversation, global community conversation, where we are hands off. There's no topic that is out of bounds for us to discuss, although we just discuss it with a lot of decency. That's the difference, but no topic is out of discussion for us. And tonight, inshallah, we shall be trying to enter into the mind of a child, and that is by understanding what exactly happens to our children. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for good health, good life. The fact that we are still alive, I think, is praise down to the Almighty for keeping us alive. And thank you very much for keeping 75 W Radio and Ummah connected. And remember, just quickly, you can text us your views or call us straight into the studio on +4477205703007. Or you can join us via Zoom. Your Zoom ID is 248-453-7363. That number again, 248-453-7363. If you haven't never used Zoom, just log into the Zoom application, and then where you see meeting ID, just enter those numbers that I've just read out, 248-453-7363, and you'll be live on 75W Radio as well as Ummah Connected. And tonight, like I said, we are talking about in the mind of a child. We want to understand our children, but how easy is it? Many of us are parents, many of us will be parents, but it will be also good to hear from children. If you are a minor, make sure you have your parent next to you before you call us to talk to us. The number is +44 772 057 0307, and we will be having our global conversation. A lot of things happen to our children in schools, especially imagine you've just arrived from a foreign country. You've come in from Uganda, you've come in from Kenya, you've come in from Rwanda, from Nigeria, from Sierra Leone, from Ghana, from all over the world, and you've just come to the United Kingdom. The first thing that you will do if you have children is to find a school for them. These children actually face a lot of struggles within schools, and sometimes we don't even get to know what exactly happens to our children. And sometimes they're easy to open up, especially coming from our cultural backgrounds. We do not necessarily talk to our parents about the issues that we face. Our children actually go through a lot of issues that sometimes they do not delve to the parents. That is an issue that should be of serious concern because there might be long-term psychological effects to the child. But also importantly, even if they wanted the children to speak to us, how can we get their confidence? How can we get them to open up?
Sheikh, you're muted.
So children actually go through a lot. It might be actually an abusive relative within the home, an uncle or whatever, who abuses the child, but the child finds it very difficult to tell you. Probably the first time they try to make insinuations or tell you about something, you are not so forthcoming, and therefore probably they find it no longer necessary to be able to actually follow up on that. As a result, the children continue suffering so much without the ability to be able to talk to anyone. How do we get our children to be able to open up, to talk to us? If you are a child and you are listening to this particular program, sat with your parent, how do you cope with this particular situation? How do you open up to speak to your parent? Do you have something that really bothers you and you have not been able to talk about it, for example? Remember, you can text me via Facebook, where we are actually now going live on 75W Radio, but also through my own channel, where we are actually having a watch party from where you can actually watch that in case you cannot get onto Zoom. But if you're getting onto Zoom, the ID number is 248-453-7363, and you will be in. You do not need a passcode for that particular one. So the kind of challenges that our children go through, but even as adults, probably you remember from your own childhood days, probably you had a situation where you had a difficult situation at home or at school, and you're trying to communicate to your parents. Did you ever break it to them? Sometimes children refuse to communicate certain things to parents because you do not want to break their hearts. Probably they are going through a lot of strain. Dad is working too hard. Mom is working too much. You don't actually have the persons that you need to talk to. This is the moment probably for you to open up and say to your parent what you would like them to actually, address. We have a children or a psychiatrist who's going to help us, a psychotherapist who is going to be helping us, and then we have social workers as well who will be listening into this conversation. They can actually come to help. But probably to just help us, probably get us started, get you thinking. Remember, within the chat room, those discussions will be quite critical. We will be reading out your messages as you come in. Make sure to keep them decent, keep them short so that when we can talk about them, but everybody can have a chance to talk. For the next 1.5 hours, 2 hours, we shall be having this kind of conversation. For me to get you ready, let's just watch this video on how probably you can get your children to open up to you.
What's up, y'all? Sean from the Dad Gang here. Now, I realized pretty early in my fatherhood journey that getting my children to open up to me was not as easy as I thought. Now, even if you consider yourself the best dad on the planet, which I consider myself, it was still pretty difficult. I realized that I had to apply a lot of different intentional methods in order for my kids to feel comfortable enough to talk to me about anything at any time. So I'm pretty excited to have partnered with Dove Men Plus Care to bring you guys this video on how to get your child to open up. Now let's face it, If you really want to get your child or your children to open up to you, you're going to have to be very intentional on finding ways to connect with your child on a personal level as often as possible. Now, I have 3 children. I have 2 daughters and 1 son. And what I've found with dealing with my son is he tends to offer up a lot of information and he's very vulnerable when I'm cutting his hair. So if I notice something is bothering him and I really want him to get it out, we go straight to a haircut.
Okay? You don't trust me, man? You trust me?
I do trust you
You do? Why you trust me?
because I love you.
I love you too, buddy.
And I will cut his hair as often as possible just for him to let it out. So if you see a bald-headed 3-year-old walking around, don't judge me. My son has something to say. Number 1, you gotta be available. Kids want to know that you are available to talk about anything at any time. No matter how untimely it is, they just want to know that you're available to talk about it. And also be interested. Kids tend to offer up more information when they feel like their parents is genuinely interested in what they have to say. Don't be too quick to offer up advice or counsel in the middle of your kid venting. No one wants to get cut off with what they should do or how they should react. And make sure you ask questions. Nothing too deep or penetrating or heavy, but just enough for them to give you real answers about what goes on in their day-to-day. Another thing you should keep in mind is your surroundings. Try to stay away from too many distractions or anything else that's going to grab too much of yours or their attention from the conversation. I personally like to use car rides for conversations between my teenage daughter and I. I realize that that's the place she's the most comfortable, and she tends to volunteer more information in the car without me even asking. Now, when trying to get your kids to open up, here's a couple things you should stay clear of because trust me, I tried it and it did not work for me. Don't make it too formal. Kids are not going to volunteer information if they feel like they're being interrogated or if they feel like it's an intervention. And watch your reactions. Kids don't want to feel judged, especially by the person that they're trying to open up to, which is you. All right, fellas, I hope these tips that I just shared with you guys, when applied to your dad game, can get your children to open up to you guys when necessary. Once again, my name is Sean Williams from the Dad Gang, and this is Dad's Care. And I'm out.
Well, thank you very, very much. We just had that should get us actually getting us talking. And the discussion today, like I said, is all the kind of experiences that our children seem to go through. Very difficult experiences sometimes. But as a parent now, how do you try to get your child to speak to you? How do you try to build their confidence? You've just seen a few tips from a parent, but that is just one side of the story. Every home, every situation is different. And therefore, the way in which you deal with this particular situation will also be different depending on the circumstances that you're in. The relationship within the home, there are many homes that you have single parents, for example, just like you have homes with 2 parents, the 2 parents, father and mother. But quite often the difficulty is how to break that news. There are times, for example, in our childhood when we go to school and for example, you end up in trouble. You broke through the school fence, you ended up going to a dance club, you danced overnight and then you come back. The prefects are there, they nab you, they take you to the office, you'll get 20 strokes of the cane, and then importantly, you'll have to call your parent. Probably sometimes the choice was, do you get caned or do we invite your parent? The worst case scenario is actually getting your parent come to school because that's really the worst. Do you ever then come to your parents and ever break that kind of news to them? There are children who, through misfortune, especially back home, who will get impregnated. You play around and then the next thing is you're pregnant. Are you able to come and confide in your parents, given the kind of toughness that you know, the kind of experience that is going to come? This is really the saddest. It shouldn't happen, but it has happened. Once it has happened, how do you break that to the parent? In countries like the United Kingdom, for example, now we have laws that have brought in a situation where, for example, your child can be given contraception or contraceptive tablets or methods without even your consent as long as they are 12 years old. Some of that has actually made parents now be unable to do anything in particular situations. I would like to hear your stories. I would like to hear, how did you do it? And someone has already gotten talking via my Facebook page. I think she talks about her particular experience because referring to her own particular experience, and she says, She says, I tried, and she's Lillian here on Facebook. She says, I tried to change the system we grew up with, where we could never confide in elders. Now my son showed me his girlfriend when he was in S4, and she used to come visit him at home all the time. I started by asking them about stuff openly, but I've also identified 2 people I trust and told them several times, if you are ever in trouble or have an issue and fear to talk to us face to face, then at least write a message or go to these 2 aunties. And I stressed the importance of not keeping quiet. Now, this is a parent that is actually trying to deal with that particular situation in their own way. And you can actually share your own experiences with us. You can share your own experiences with us. Remember, you can call us in the studio or text on +44 772 057 0307. That is 75W Radio. Or you can join us via Zoom. The address is 248-453-7363, and we will get talking. Let's actually get the experiences. Just to tell you that here we've got a psychotherapist, Madam Rahma Abdallah, who I think is already with us, and she will be able to talk to us and try to tell us probably how to break that barrier. The video, I think, should just have introduced us to this particular situation, and probably we can get to Rahma before we can hear from the parents on their particular experiences, how they have done it. Mrs. Rahma, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's talking to children. How do we break that ice? Sometimes it's not very easy to speak to our children. What's the easiest way? What is the one guiding word that you can give us? Probably because we're going to stay with you for the rest of the program, but probably one word that you can use that would help to break the ice to get the confidence of the children.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Thank you very much for the invite and the opportunity. I think going back to the Dad's Gang clip, he gave us really the most important cues in how to get connected and how to talk to our children. The first point he said is being connected. I think most of the time we are not connected, but we want the children to be able to talk to us. So the first thing he gave a lot of importance is connection. Connection means you think about the quality of your relationship with your children. So that would be the first thing to think about and to nurture. The second thing he talked about was availability. He said you need to be available and avoid distractions.
Now,
So
because we're going to have you for the rest of the program, I just want us to, once you've mentioned at least that issue of connection, I'd like us to take us now to the parents, to the people that are here, to talk about that particular connection, and then we can try to relate back and forth.
Okay, great.
This is a global community conversation. It's not about an expert, talking down at people. It is us having a conversation, and that's the difference with this particular program. Come. Let's talk with Kassim Kayira. Let's talk to some of the parents now. On here, I can see Sarah Virunji. Sarah Virunji, you are on. What has been your experience, Madam Sarah? How do you connect with the children? Are you able to connect, actually? That's Sarah Virunji. Let's check the Rahma there.
Yes, I'm still here.
You're there.
Yeah.
Yes. Hasfa K. If you can unmute Hasfa K, please, for us. Hasfa K, what's been your experience?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thanks very much for joining Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim.
Thank you so much for the program.
Brilliant. How do you connect with your children?
You know what? I kind of use moments. The way I connect with the children is if I have something to do, talk with them, I cannot make it formal. We can go shopping. I could be braiding their hair. We could be doing chores in the kitchen. And then or maybe there's something on the TV and you use that as a teaching moment. I cannot sit down and make it formal. Or, you cannot do this, you cannot do that. I just pick moments. When it arises, I use that moment when it arises as a teaching moment, right. Teaching time.
Yeah. And has it worked for you?
Alhamdulillah, so far it has worked. Yes, it has worked. And I have to learn how to, because we were raised by parents we never really sat down to talk to because we were afraid, we were scared. But then I think kind of opening that relationship with them and making communication easy it has paid off so far, alhamdulillah.
Now, that is your own relationship with your own children. Let's take it back to your own self and how you related with your parents.
Oh, yeah.
Did you find it easy to communicate? I mean, we've just used a quick scenario, something like you've gone out dancing, you're coaxed by the school, the next moment as you come back, you've broken out of the fence, and your parents either have to be called, an unfortunate event happens, you end up, like becoming pregnant in school or whatever. How much communication did you have with your own parents to be able to communicate certain things?
Not there, because you'll be dead.
You'll be dead before you're alive.
You're dead on arrival, so you don't talk. Yes. And you sit down. You don't talk. You don't talk at all. You sit down. Whatever is bothering you, you kind of find a way to deal with it. Right. But it's also a generation thing, because that's how they were raised too. So I'm beginning to understand that is how they were raised, and they were doing what they knew then.
But a lot of things we carry into the next lives that we live. How easy was it for you to find that kind of connection that we're speaking about, grabbing those moments and actually getting to speak to the children? How easy was it for you to actually make the connection, given the kind of your own personal experience from the past that you had?
I know. I think life is a learning process. You take it each day at a time. Because of how much I was afraid to talk to my mother, I try to make sure that my kids don't have that fear. I mean, I try to be strict as much as I can, but I had to, the environment we're in the United States, kids talk. They're free. They'll come and say, Mommy, ABCD, Mommy, there's this boy at school, and they're going to talk. And I'm not going to make it a taboo, but I have to engage them, because that's what even the environment they're in. Is there's this expectation of the environment. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I was just trying to look and think through the kind of experiences that we go through and how we carry those sort of experiences forward. I'll give you an example. For example, growing up, my family was a strong Muslim family. We were not into celebrating birthdays, for example. I used to be invited to friends' birthdays, especially during holidays, those birthdays that happened during holidays. And I would go out to these parties, and I'm thinking, oh God, these people are having a birthday. The first birthday party that I ever had for me or for myself was actually done by myself. I went to the kitchen. We used to have a restaurant. I organized, I made lots of chips. I did different foods, and then invited friends, and they said, happy birthday. Not necessarily because it was on the very birthday, but because I felt like I should start celebrating. And this was me creating my own environment based on the pressures that I was facing from society. So you see that some of these things we carry from where we come from. For you now to be able to come and do a party for your children, of course, Islamically, there will be issues, religiously, there will be issues with that. But ultimately, the way you manage to carry yourself from that particular past experience into this new experience would be quite interesting. Let's hear from Mudathir Chiseka. Thank you very much, Hasfa, for that experience. Mudathir Chiseka, your personal experience. You've got children. How do you break that ice? And probably let's start with your own experience. How did you relate with your parents? Are there secrets you never told that you can actually tell now? Mudathir? Mudathir Chiseka, you have the mic. All right, let's try Bibo. I can see Bibo there. Bibo, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira. Let's hear your particular experience. What's been your experience of, you've got children, I should assume. How do you relate with the children? And, well, first of all, how did you relate with your parents? Were you free to sort of express and tell your parents what you felt? Hello, Bibo, you've gone quiet. Let's see Abu Islam. Abu Islam, it will be interesting to hear from a man. And if there are any children who are with your parents, because if you're under 18, we should have your parent with you at least next for us to have a conversation, just to make sure we keep within the guidelines and we don't cross the line. Let's try Abu Islam. If you're there, you have the mic, please. Abu Islam, unmute yourself. Hello, Abu Islam. People are going so quiet. Are they so scared or are they shy? Let's try Habiba. I can see Habiba there. Habiba, please, you have the mic. Let's hear your experience, please. Habiba? People have gone quiet. Is it shyness? And I cannot see actually any messages in the chat room. Let's see. Let's try Hassan. I wanted to hear from a man because actually we've had a woman already. Oh, Farida Mitiana. We've got Farida Mitiana. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim, Kayira. We are talking, entering the mind of a child. We are trying to share experiences in terms of let's first of all start with your own experience with your parents. Were you free with your parents? Would you open up to your parents? Would you tell them anything? Farida, you have the mic. People are so quiet. What's happened? Let's go to Mohammed Kaketo in Kampala. All the way in Kampala, it's nearly 11 o'clock. Campaigns have actually, I think, officially ended probably in the next 1 hour. And Uganda will be going for elections on Thursday. We wish you all the best. We've seen a lot of security deployment. I'm sure it's quiet, it's calm, but it's a bit tense with all the military deployments that we've been seeing. Mahmoud, thank you very much for staying up late in the night. Let's hear your particular experience, starting with your own relationship with your parents. Were you free to speak to your parents as much as you want?
First of all, allow me to say Salaam alaikum wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa
barakatuh. Starting with the issue of campaign season in Kampala right now, internet has been shut off.
Mm-hmm.
And
how are you managing to connect? Because this is an internet-based conversation.
Yeah, I believe actually that's why there are not so many people from Uganda available right now. But back to the topic. Personally, you know the setup in Uganda and those days of the 80s, early 90s, it wouldn't be very easy for people to relate well with their parents. They couldn't open up. But personally, I could open up with my mom.
Why was that?
Hello?
Why was that? Why was that the case?
It's because there was that sort of fear they created between the children and parents.
Mm-hmm.
It's a reason as to why, you know, there is what we call respect and then fear. In Uganda or in Africa, in African setting, children could fear their parents rather than respecting them that much.
Right. I
don't know whether I get the point.
Mm.
You know, whenever you could do something, there's don't.
Lots of don'ts, few.
Lots of don'ts, all the time. Don't. You know, some actually, even those people in the UK who come from Uganda, because personally I've been there and I know, in most cases, we end up having lots of shifts. You don't give your children time. You can't augur well with them. They can't know you. You can't know them. That's the reason as to why we could not connect well with our parents here in Africa and in Uganda in particular. But however, on my side, I try a lot to open up to my children as young as they are, because currently my eldest daughter is 8 years, but I try very much to open up to them, engage them in whichever conversation, relate, ask them whatever they want and whatever they feel like to share with me. It has worked for me, honestly, because regardless of anything, at least they have to open to me. They have to tell me anything they feel like. That's what I've done. And I'm trying very much because I know, because once you don't open to you, once your children are not close to you, once they start fearing you, they cannot tell you anything.
Is there a particular experience that you had that you never wanted to share with your parents, that you would never have told your parents? Or did you have any particular experience?
Of course, yes, but personally,
yes.
Me and my mom were like the two fingers. I mean, I could open to my mom, but my dad, there are instances where I couldn't open. At times, actually, I could even go to mom, create a story, and then she tells me, you know what? Now tell him like this. But with dad, sometimes dads are no nonsense parents here in Uganda.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mahmoud Kaketo. And I'm only leaving you because we've got so many people on, and I would like to hear from as many people as possible. trying to change the conversation. We grew up with very strict parents to whom we could not easily express our feelings. Surprisingly for me, I think my dad was very tough. We didn't have so much of a conversation, but I used to open up to my mom so much. And I think for many for many boy children, you find that a lot easier to sort of be able to get to have that kind of conversation. Here is a message from the chat room which says, although my parents are very loving and kind people, I kept my falling message from them. I didn't want my parents, especially my mother, to know that I was hurting and in turn hurt them. It was a lengthy and emotionally abusive marriage. Well, I can see Jackson's Galaxy online. Galaxy, Jackson, you have got the mic. Your personal experience and how probably you have related with your own children. Thank you very much for joining 75W Radio and Uma Connected. And the program is Come Let's Talk. Jackson, talk to me.
Hi guys, thanks for the program. It's really educative. And parenting as a parent, I have an 18-year-old and a 4-year-old daughter.
An 18-year-old boy or girl?
18-year-old boy.
Yes.
And the daughter is 4 years.
Try to raise your voice a little bit. I think your sound is too low. Try to speak up, probably. Yeah, but we can hear you. It's just raise the voice a little bit. Yes, please.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't want to shout because I might wake them up. But of course, I was born in Uganda and from a polygamous family. My dad were 40, so it was a big family.
So 40 children.
Yeah, 40 children.
Well, I thought at 43 were so many, but now you've beaten us by 7 more children.
I know we are over 40. I was being good to say 40, but we're over 40. And our dad was so strict, like he was so strict. So of course I couldn't be very open to him. Like any other boy, I was more close to the mom because we were different parents. We had step parents. So of course I'm more close to the mom. I would tell her anything. Experiences, of course, I couldn't tell him anything. You couldn't be open. Those parents, they're so strict. And basically it wasn't, I'm different. I have to be the opposite because for me I only have 2 kids and I have to try to be in their lives because most parents, like African parents, think that when we give our kids presents, then we can be away, but kids want presents more than presents.
Oh, you mean brilliant. That's actually a quotable quote for the day. Kids need presents more than presents.
They need your presence more than your presence.
That's a good takeaway tonight. Yes, please.
And because when you look at human beings, when we are born, we are not like animals. Animals is like 90%. When they come out, when the tiger is born, they are 90% tiger. They're going to fight all the way out. The parent does only 10%. But human being, the parent is going to do 90%. The kid is 10%. So the parent does, it's like a 20-year project.
Now, Jackson, between you and the mother of your children, who do the children find easy to speak to? Because someone has just sent a message here to say, I told my dad everything, my mom, very tough. And that's Naima Kayira there, saying, mom, very tough, dad, she could tell him anything. In terms of you and your wife, who do the children find easy to speak to?
Me and my wife, I think I'm more quiet and the man is more strict. And the boy growing up, he was more close to me. But as he has grown up to 17, now he's more close to the mom. And the girl is close to me. She's still young, but she's close to me.
It seems to be a kind of a natural trend, I think, with boys to mom and girls to dad. It seems to be kind of a natural trend in that. Now, Jackson, I'll just ask you one more question, and simply because we've got so many people, we're trying to stick within time. Just probably something for you. Did you have anything growing up in your own life that you found difficult to communicate to your parents that probably at this moment in time, if you got a chance, you would do it differently? Was there a particular moment in your life that you thought, this is serious trouble? I wish I could share it with my parents, but I can't. Jackson?
You find a kid who is 15 years who doesn't know how to wash their plate because the parents ignored them. They were so busy looking for money. But we have to get that time for the kids. Because if you don't, you might think that you're doing them a favor now when they're young, but they're going to curse you when they're old. So many parents give their kids chocolate because when they didn't eat chocolate, you give them chocolate. What? Then the kids grow fat. When the kids grow fat in the adulthood, they're going to tease them. They're going to do. Then they'll say, "Oh, where's my mom?" So we should give them tough love, give them the healthy food. Because if kids don't eat healthy, when they grow up, it's going to be the opposite.
Jackson, I asked you a question, which was, did you have a particular experience in your own growing up? Something that you could have told your parents, but you didn't. But now, if you had a chance, you could have done it differently. Just that one particular experience, probably. Do you remember anything that come to mind?
A lot of things I never told my. A lot of things I never told my parents. Look, my dad was so strict, and for him, the trick he had was, if I don't give my kids money, then I'm helping them so that they won't want money. But we had to get ways of getting money off him without him knowing. So we had to start forging. So of course, with the forgeries I did to get money, at school, I used to have a lot of money. So when I was coming back home, what my dad did, he never wanted to give us school fees. He would pay it in the bank. Then when he didn't forget money, especially he was a rich person, he was one of the richest guys in Uganda. So he had the money, but he couldn't give it. But we would see it. We could fake documents like a report. Then I added kids have to bring £1 million cash. Then they pay this to school in the bank. So at school I always had money. And my brothers used to think I couldn't tell them that okay, I use this trick because then it would blow up. Then the parents would know. So I had that to get money, and this guy now I can't even tell them now because they will be like, what's this? But that's what. So I imagine when I look at my son and I'm like, if my son did this, I would kill him.
You'd feel.
So yeah, that's what I.
Thanks
so I have to get
Jackson. I'm
money
only
off
leaving
them.
you because of time again, just to allow
Okay.
more people to come on. Thanks very much for sharing your particular experience. Let's hear from a child actually to hear their own experiences, because quite often what happens is, well, we are speaking, so far it's been parents talking about their own experiences. Let me hear from my own son. He might actually surprise me that it's something I ought to have known that I didn't get to know. Imkan is on the line. Thank you very much for joining 75W Radio. Are there any secrets you're keeping from your parents? Is there any problem that probably happens at school? Do children actually go through problems that they haven't been able to talk to their parents about? Imkan?
Assalamualaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
I would say with childhood, it's the thing is you don't really talk to your parents. You feel like you can't really communicate with them. For me, like,
why is that?
I feel like with your parents, it just you just don't find it. You feel like, oh, they're strict, or they probably won't understand what you're going through. But with if you find someone who you can communicate, which for me is my brother, I mainly just talk to him about everything that goes on and like all the secrets that happen in school. Because like children and secondary school are a terrible mix. What kids go through in secondary school is hard, and they try to open up, but you know they have this outer shell, and like they don't really communicate with their parents. And even though like a parent could be they could sit them down, and they can be like, oh, is everything okay at school? How's it going? But they don't really go into depth of how the child is feeling. So that's why they.
How would you want probably a parent to speak to you in a way that then you would get to open up about those things that you find difficult to say to your parents, but you're able to say to your siblings, to your bigger brothers? What would it take? How should parents act in a way that would get your confidence for you to share those particular experiences?
I feel like the only way you could communicate with your parents, the reason why you communicate with your siblings is because with your siblings, it's way easier to communicate with them because they know what you've been through. They're still not really children, but they're still like on the level of adolescence. And with your parent, you always think of them as elders. They won't understand you. The only thing that like a parent can do that could would be easier for the child to communicate with them is if they would be more like not really a child, but be more understanding and be like on their level. So like, for example, if you be like, oh, I got into trouble today in school, they won't be as mad. They'll be like, oh, because remember, oh, I did this when I was a child. so maybe I could understand what they're going through, or let me just listen to them for a second before, I do something, or, I ground them, or I take their Xbox or whatever. And if they're more understanding with their children,
Yes.
it'll be way easier for the child to communicate and be like safer.
But now you've spoken about the challenges that happen in school. What sort of challenges do you face in school? Is it racism? Do you get, for example, bullied? Are there drugs issues? What sort of challenges? Maybe you can just break down a few of the things, because the parents, we cannot get into school to understand what exactly goes on. Tell me, for example, the first day that you get into school, what sort of challenge did you face? Your first day, you've just gone in, you are in year 7, you finished primary, year 7, you are fresher. What sort of challenges? Take me into the school and give me a picture. Your first day at school, how was it like?
Well, first of all, in year 7, you really still have that year 6 body. You're still small, and compared to like the year 11s, year 10s, they're way older than you. And then going into the school, you don't know where you're going. It's a new building. It's not this small building of primary school. And then well, it's not really as in the older kids taunting you, but it's as in like you feel like everyone's watching you. And since you're the youngest, you feel like, oh, I'm scared of the older people, and it's frightening. And not also that if you don't have any friends, if you don't have people to support you, you feel like you're by yourself, you feel like you're lonely. And for me, my first day in secondary school, if I didn't have people who I knew, I feel like it'll be way worse than what it would have been.
So you mean people that you knew, you went with people who you were with in primary school, and you ended up in the same secondary school?
Yeah, because if you don't have people, it would just be stranded. Because mainly older children are frightening to people, to like the newcomers, like in those movies, those high school movies of, bullying and that. But the older kids want to seem bigger. When you're first there, want to seem more frightening. And then as a year 7, you will think, oh, I'm scared. And you don't really talk to this about your parents. You don't talk to your parents about this because, you don't think that they'll understand, because most parents have been Ugandan schools, boarding schools. They were just there eating kanyama, posho. You probably like, oh, they won't understand how it is.
Thank you very much. Stay on the line. Don't go away. I need to hear from Rahma, our guest. So I think, Rahma, you had something to intervene, to mention there on this particular conversation that we are having, which is more interesting with every minute.
What's the young person's name again?
His name is Imkan.
Imkan.
Yes.
So I think Imkan has given us another clue.
Yes.
He has repeated the word, parents will not understand, so many times. So the clue for us is being available. What he means is parents are too busy, they won't get it. But if you're connected, there are so many, I don't know, Imkan, are you still online?
He is online, he can hear
so
you.
So Imkan, you know what you've just done now, you've spoken to a lot of parents and they've all heard you and they've understood you. So what is different? Why is it that people have understood you now? Because people are available, you were invited to speak, and everybody has listened. So I think the clue here he's giving us, that when he says parents will not understand, we need to think about making ourselves available and demonstrating to our children that, yes, I get it, I understand. And if I don't understand, help me to understand. I think that's what I wanted to say.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Rahma. And we're still with us. Rahma is a psychologist, a psychotherapist, and therefore she'll be helping us to navigate through some of these particular discussions. Very interesting comments coming in the chat room, and Imkan, I'll be coming back to you. Here, Tahani says, when it starts early on, you instill confidence, the much needed tool for resilience and coping mechanisms to prevent or overcome bullying. Ugandan parents, says Farida Ntege, we're just busy eating kanyama and kaunga. I think he's just repeating Imkan's comment there. Here there's Kiki who says, if it doesn't start at an early stage, it might never happen at all. So it's actually about the communication. If you have to establish the lines of communication from a very early age. But the problem now, of course, Rahma, you're still there. The point I wanted to raise here before going to Imkan and inside the schools, because I think a lot of the troubles happen in school, and we'll hear from several of the other children as well, or pupils in schools. the situation with, making that early connection, being able to connect early. How do where is the borderline? Because we are coming from these backgrounds of our own very tough parents, where it's been difficult, even to communicate. And then thinking that because we've come to an open world where people discuss things, we can actually throw ourselves straight into the deep and start just communicating. Where is the borderline? How much limitation should we have in having that particular conversation?
So I think we have these ideas in my work. We think about something we call family scripts. I think that's what you're talking about. We know that people parent the way they were parented if they're not thinking. But when we talk about family scripts, we think about 3 different ways forward. Sometimes people parent by replicating their parenting style, their parents' parenting style. So you just do what your parents did. There is something we call rewriting. So you can rewrite your parents' script. How do you rewrite? So you think about things that your parents did that you didn't like, and you change it into something different. I'm not talking about values. I'm talking about, say, for example, if your parents told you to be quiet when you want to raise an issue and you didn't like that, so what do? You let your children speak. So I'll give an example myself as a mother. One of the things that happened to me, I was raised by grandparents, not parents. My parents happened to die when I was a very young child. Right. But my grandparents raised me. And we grew up with a culture when you're being told off, look down. Just look down.
Can't look the person straight in the eye.
Okay, look down and listen. So I found it very difficult because I wanted to look and I wanted to respond. So when I had my children, the first thing I did from the word go, I said, look at me. Right. I created it, I rewrote my script. And then there's something else we think about in family scripts, which we call improvisation. Mm-hmm. So you are not replicating your parents' script. You are not rewriting their script, but you are coming up with something completely new. Yes. Something new, something whereby you're starting to think about what works. But you can only figure out what works if you're connected and if you make yourself available. Now, I would like to think availability consists of 4 different elements. Mm-hmm. So being available means being available physically. Right. How are you available physically? Not sitting on the settee with your phone in your hands or the remote control, but being available where you can actually look at your child, put everything down and have a conversation with them. One of the things that I did with my children when they were younger, if they come to me, I'm at the sink, I'm doing something, I'll tell them, I'm sorry, I'm not listening. If you give me a chance, when I finish what I'm doing, I'll come and I'll listen. So then I'll come.
Could that not disrupt? Because sometimes if they came to speak to you at that particular moment, probably that was the moment that whatever was itching them actually needed the attention. Or would you rather give it more time?
So it depends on what you think you are doing when you're parenting your children. Mm-hmm. If you are thinking about discipline, you need to think about what discipline means for you. So discipline in the Oxford Dictionary, actually, the meaning is it's teaching and training. So when you listen to your child sometimes immediately, and sometimes you say, give me a minute, I'm not listening. So you're training them different ways and different ideas in how to communicate. So the one thing, what did I say? So I'm saying we are replicating, we are rewriting, or we are improvising. Right. Availability consists of 4 different things. So you're available physically. You need to be available emotionally. So you know when your child is coming to speak to you, that you are able to connect with them emotionally. And I think in my world, we call it emotional intelligence. You need to know at what position your child is speaking to you at. Are they upset? Are they excited? Are they annoyed? Are they disappointed? We need to be able to connect emotionally. Right. The third element is spiritually. You need to be available spiritually, and you need to be available mentally.
Now,
So availability is not just...
You'll need to help us just keep reminding us through those points as we go ahead with the program.
Sure.
Just allowing people now to sort of take in that kind of message. I think Imkan is back. He still has his hand up. I had told him not to, I'd asked him not to go off, and he's still on. Imkan was still in school and sort of looking at the kind of difficulties. You
So
yes.
with school, I have worked in a school setting for more than 10 years as a therapist. And school for parents who haven't, so I used to be a primary school teacher. So I know both sides. I know the therapy side, I know the teaching side. Now, one of the things that happens to your child in school, one, a child transitioning from one class to the next, they carry a reputation with themselves. So as teachers during the coffee break, there is a lot of conversation about that child and how nasty and how bad. So there's that thing. So that then blocks your child's ability to change and to be somebody else, because the teachers carry that child with those kinds of labels. That's one thing. The children can be so terribly nasty. It can be a very, very bad place for your children to be. So you really need to know what is going on for your child when it comes to school.
Right, thank you very much. Rahma, please hold the line, stay on the line. We're going to keep dipping in back and forth to you because we are having a conversation, and therefore we want to allow as many people to get a chance as possible. I was still with him, Imkan. I just wanted to raise 1 or 2 points before letting him go, and then we could go to somebody else. Imkan, it's back to you, and I just wanted to find out, because we spoke about the first day in school, the ability to try to cope within that school environment where you're totally unfamiliar. Lucky enough, you have people that you moved with from primary school to secondary school. Inside school itself, what sort of challenges are there? What sort of difficulties do you face beyond just the first day? Now you're already used, you are in school at this particular moment in time. What sort of challenges have you experienced?
I would say the hardest experience is once you've settled in, and I feel like for me, I don't know if it's just for me, but I have this aroma where it's just attracted to trouble. And then like the worst thing I experience is trying not to get into trouble, like or like my teachers ringing my parents because, you know, your parents might not be as understanding. But once you settle into the school, you find out that most people who were at the beginning were, you know, or were more threatening. And the more you know people around you, like the better the school environment becomes. So if you're lost and you don't know anyone, you don't know anything, you don't communicate, you're antisocial, that the more secondary school will be harder for you.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much for your time. We'll just go to somebody else. Remember, you can send us a message. You can actually text us on +44 772 057 0307, or join us via Zoom, which many people are actually doing at this particular moment. Our Zoom ID is 248 453 7363, and we are talking about entering into the mind of a child, just to try to understand. It would actually be very healthy and very wealthy for us to understand it, to hear especially from the children who are actually, you know, in schools. And therefore, if you have a child with you and you're a parent there, probably this might be your experience to hear what exactly goes on in school that they haven't been able to tell you. You might be surprised how programs like this actually get them to open up. I've seen quite a number of people online that I would like just to go very randomly. I've seen Gideon Gabriela. Gideon Gabriela, if we can find you, please unmute yourself. Gideon Gabriela. Gideon Gabriela, you have the mic. Your experience, please. Gideon Gabriela, if you can hear me. Gideon Gabriela, we've tried to actually unmute you. We found Gideon Gabriela. Okay, let's try Eze. I can see Eze there. Let's hear from Eze. Lots of messages, of course, still coming in the chat room and via Facebook, actually. Very, very many messages, I think, sort of beginning to flow in. I didn't, well, I can see lots of conversations actually going on inside the chat room itself. People talking about how to manage situations, how to deal with the different situations. It will be very interesting. Let's hear from Haifa. Haifa has been around for quite a bit. Haifa, you can unmute yourself, please. Your experience in school. Haifa? Is it Haila or it's Haifa, I think? Yes, unmute yourself, please, Haifa. You can just press on that particular unmute button and we hear from you. Oh, remember, you can just raise your hand if you're in there and you would have wanted to say something. You can have the opportunity to sort of come in. HNB was one of the first people to get in. Let's hear from there while Haifa still gets themselves sorted. HNB, you have the mic. What is your school experience? What's your own experience? HNB? Some of the mics are not open.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I was getting worried now, especially when it gets to numbers. People seem to be shocked when they are called upon. This is a global conversation, and therefore, if I call upon you, please just speak up and let's get talking. This is a talking opportunity that we don't have any barriers as long as we remain decent. Your experience, please. Do you have any children?
I do have a 12-year-old.
You do have a 12-year-old?
Yeah.
Yes, let's start with your own personal experience. How was your relationship with your parents? Could you tell them everything?
Yes, I did. I could. That's why when I was listening, my situation is way different.
Right.
My parents were tough, like everybody was saying. African parents are kind of very, very strict.
Seems to be a sort of a subject that cuts across many people's lives. Yes, please.
They were tough, and we gave them names because you know in Uganda there's the police warden and the traffic officer and all that. We named our parents, but the one thing that
who was your father? The nickname?
He was the traffic officer.
And the mom?
The superintendent.
All right. Okay. So traffic officer arrives. How was the relationship with traffic officer?
He is a very, very quiet man, and he's somebody who would kind of, because I grew up in an environment whereby my dad would not punish you like today. He would do something today and he will carry it for years. So
I don't like people who carry problems over. You want the anger to be managed there and then.
Yeah, he'll be like, he will just carry things yearly. Like the only way he'll punish you is with your report card. Other kids would get presents and you would not get anything. And that's when you know that I did something wrong. However, with my mom, it was different. She would sit you down and tell you, do you know why I'm punishing you? So you would talk through your punishment and she will punish you at the end of the day. Right. So as I've had my own child, I can see where they were coming from. And I think with that, the psychotherapists say that we kind of imitate or we do something different. So with my child, the first thing I did was let him know there were boundaries where in my family, we all knew that there were boundaries, but I used to play with my mom. So that's the same thing I've done with my child. I let him know I am the mom to begin with, but at the same time, I'm your friend. So I want you to feel free to talk to me and the only way he would come in to tell me things that are going on is if he hears me talk about my mom or how was like those stories of our upbringing. That's when he would open up.
Moment, HNB. Is he with
Sorry?
you? Is he with you at this moment?
No, it's school night, so he's already in bed.
Right. Okay. Well, it's getting that late. Well, it's quite surprising sometimes how much you might think they've opened up very much, and then you come onto a program like this and you hear something for the first time. It's always amazes, you know, what could actually happen. So it worked for you that you managed to get that barrier sort of broken across.
It's because from since he started would understand from get-go, I made him aware that it's not nice to sleep without talking things through. But Rahman mentioned that sometimes it's okay to tell your child, I'm not ready to hear you right now. So he may come to me with something and I'm actually not present. I'm there, but mentally not present. And I'll tell him, you know what? I'm not ready to hear you. Can you give me some time? And then we can sit down and talk about things. But he likes watching things. So he brings up his conversations through things he's watched.
Right.
and he reads a lot. So if he's struggling with his own feelings, he will get a book and try to talk to me through a book. Like
by writing stories, or
no, by telling me about the stories. He reads more than I can read. So if he reads something, he will come and try to express his own feelings or what's going on through a book that he's read.
Using the book as an excuse. I think that's a point we shall raise with the psychiatrist, with the psychotherapist at a certain point, just to sort of get a feel, trying to communicate, because sometimes our children communicate to us in ways that are sort of, covert ways of communication, and you need to be very clever to sort of see through those particular insinuations and be able to deal with them in an effective way. Let's hear from another child, please, if you can. But while we are at it, I've seen Bora. Bora, if you can please unmute yourself. I've seen Bora on the line. Bora, we would like to hear your particular experience, please. Bora, if you can hear me, can you try to unmute yourself, please? Oh, while we are at it, actually, let's get to Nabira. Nabira, you're on the line. You are live on 75W Radio. Just to remind you, this is the program, Come, Let's Talk. It is purely a conversation where we just let everything out and talk between ourselves and to ourselves with an idea of trying to get it off our chests, but also to find long-lasting solutions. The problem we are discussing today, the point we are discussing today, is the issue of trying to break into the minds of our children. I was trying to get Bora. I don't know if we cannot get. While we are looking for Bora, please get ready, Bora. Joy.
Okay, would give me back. Where did her? I need to tell her now. I can't. Like,
is that Bora on, or that's Rahma's voice coming in? Oh, Nabira. Oh, Nabira is on. Okay, Nabira, please. Nabira, how old are you? Assalamu alaikum, Nabira. Hello, Nabira. You're on the line. Hello, Nabira, are you there? Oh, Nabira is still trying. I think let's get Joy. Joy, let's start with your personal experience, please. Thanks very much for joining 75W Radio and Umma Connected on Zoom and via YouTube. And remember, with that quick number, it's +4477205703037. I always get lots of messages through that line. It seems to have gone quiet today. People have decided to just stay on Zoom, and make sure you can always keep chatting. We'll get your messages as well. There are people who are shy, maybe fearing to come on air, but you're already on air, and therefore you might as well just talk. Joy, your particular experience, your current relationship.
Hello, good evening. Thank you so much for presenting this program once again.
Pleasure.
My personal experience, I was my mother's last born, and I was closest to my dad. My dad called me his friend, and if you wanted to know anything about me, you'd go to my dad. That's the funny thing. So what happened when my mom passed away, when my dad passed away, I had to forge a close relationship. We were good with my mom, but when you ask me, who do you tell your secrets? Yeah. I found it much easier to tell my dad, because they were both teachers, but my dad was comfortable with conversations, children's conversations. And I think it was about listening and patience. And those are very key, ingredients for a parent who wants their children to talk to them. You need to be patient, and you need to be comfortable with whatever they're going to talk about. Don't lose your hair, because they have said something, that you were not expecting, because they will not say more if you sound so shocked, you understand. So my dad was more patient, and so I used to confide in him. But when my dad passed away, I forged a relationship with my mom, and again I was able to talk to her. And I think because she also learned from our dad. So what does that mean? That you can learn, and children need trust is another thing. So in my social work experience, these are the kind of things we deal with, because children come in care because communication has broken down. Relationship is about communication. Communication is about relationship. That's how it works. And it's a two-way. That's how it flows, because you need to give something to the child to give you something as well. Say, for example, even as a professional, I do that. I can tell a young person, because I looked after children, the ones who are teenagers from the age of 13 to 18. And sometimes I have to tell them, I'm a mother. I can tell them I've been in that situation. You see, you have to give something away. Don't be this perfect person to your child, because you'll be too good for them to tell you their problems. So sometimes you have to say, I have been there. You understand? Then they will know that you have enough empathy to understand what they're struggling with.
But
Listen,
when you went to school in Uganda,
yes,
and you've had your children in the UK,
yes,
different settings altogether.
yes.
For you to imagine that probably you're going to understand the dynamics and how easy does it become for you? How easy was it for you to, are you sure that your children actually open up to you? Do they tell you everything? Do you think they tell you everything? Would they confide in you to be able to tell you everything?
I want to say that I'm close to my children. My children are 9 and 12. They are 9 and 12. And I have to say we are quite close. My son, I would say my son is so close to me. You understand? My daughter is so close to dad. So when we are walking, actually, my husband holds the girl's son, and I hold my son. And you can observe that when you come home very quickly, you know. So what does that mean? I am able to almost second guess, if there is something talk about, but they really share a lot. And we make time to talk about things. And I always tell them we talk about things. And sometimes, like my son can come home and you can know, because they're naturally very jolly kids. So you will know when he's feeling low, and maybe you just give them a cuddle. I'm a very busy woman, but I make time, even if it's 30 minutes, make it quality. Even if it's 30 minutes, make it quality. What does that mean? Don't be on your phone. Don't let them not be on gadgets. Those 30 minutes, let them be about you. Look into their eyes. You understand? And that is being present. So being present is not sitting home, mom. You understand, where you are with them all the time, but making that time meaningful. You understand? So that you can know when your child is going through something. Because let me tell you, there is something about when you have a relationship, a close relationship with your child, and you make even 20 minutes count. For example, when the weather is good, you can go, when I go to the park with my children, I'm not contactable, because that time is for me with them. During that time, it's not because I've taken them to Legoland, but I've gone to spend time with them, quality time, make it meaningful. One parent here said, be present, mentally, be present, and establish a relationship. Because for me at the moment, to answer your question, Kassim, I would say at the moment, I think because my children are very open and they know that I love to talk. Mom talks about things. So they know that, and actually the other kids sometimes say, you can talk to mom. So they almost know they will come and we talk about things. And I'm lucky because I'm trained as a social worker and systemically trained. I believe in talking, talking even some more. If it means me going, like say when my son has gone to bed and I go and sit on his bed, you understand? I can just go and just spend like 5 minutes, just sit next to him when he's in his bed. And
well, quite often what happens, Joy, is many of us end up working too hard. By the time you come, actually even getting the time to be able to have those 5 minutes would actually be quite a challenge. Hold that thought. I think let's try and get on some more people on. I would like to hear from the children, if there are any children who are still awake at this particular moment in time. Haula Nabwega, I don't think you're a child, but let's hear your experience, please. Just having the conversation here. Haula Nabwega. Haula, you have the mic. Hello, Haula. Let's try and get somebody else on. Sheikh Zaid, I saw you with your child. How are you bonding? How are you creating the conversation? How are you making the communication? Sheikh Zaid, Ustad Zaid. I saw you with your daughter there, and then we'll come to Sharifa Twaha, who I see raising her hand up. Yes, how are you dealing with yours? Still very young. How are you breaking the barriers? Assalamu alaikum.
The young ones, the little ones are like pets, they're just sweet. They're not like Imkan, These are just like, just call them sweet names and, make them happy, smile. But you make time, you have to make time. Just make sure they feel your presence. When you're present, they feel safe, they feel secure. You give them that sense of security. They know that is everything. That's what I tell them. I'm the king of the jungle. So whatever you want, you just know that is here. Well, so it's about making them feel safe and protected. That's it.
Right. Thank you very much. Let's go to Sharifa Twaha. Sharifa, your own experience? You are live on 75W Radio and Uma Connected Zoom via YouTube and on Zoom. Yes, what's
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I've come in a bit late, but I just have a quick question, unfortunately.
Yes.
About kids.
Do you have a kid?
Yes, I've got a 1 year old now. She's 1 year old now.
A lot Yes, let's hear your question, please.
Here she is. She's 1 year old now. And
mashallah.
I just have a question about, like, at this age, the kids always enjoy nursery rhymes, and some of the nursery rhymes I don't feel like they're really appropriate. For example, sometimes they're playing like music, a lot of music, it's all about music. Is there any way our babies could be like using something different? I know they like the nursery rhymes a lot, but is there anything anyone could recommend that we can play for them on the TV than only nursery rhymes? Because it's all about dancing and music, and I wouldn't really want my kid to set up that kind of foundation for them.
Right. Okay, Birahma, you're still there. You are our advisor on that line. What sort of advice would you have? Birahma, are you there? Birahma, we can hear you. Is she unmuted? Yes, Birahma. I don't know if you had the question, please. You had the question from Sharifa. She's asking about health. What she's seeing on the TV is lots of dancing and jumping around, and she wouldn't want her child just to start her life along those lines. What sort of advice would you have? Is there anything out there that might be better?
Okay. I just wanted to say you were calling me. I was answering, but I was muted.
Oh, yes, sorry. I think we will
So,
have to close so you can answer questions.
Yeah. So if you are orienting yourself towards non-musical rhymes, there is a lot of them, and you can buy, you can download. There is so many Islamically orientated ones without music. You just need to look for them. Yeah, there is a lot of them. There is Arabic ones. There is English ones.
Is there a particular website probably that you would recommend where she might be looking?
Google will be your friend.
Sheikh Google.
Yeah, and there is a okay, we've now moved on these days. You can buy very cheap, £2, £5, and you download. There's a lot of rhymes in English without music. They sing about Allah, they sing about the trees, the rain. So there's a lot of them, just like even all the nursery rhymes with the music, there is some without, same name, same song, but without the music. You just need to look. Yeah, they're available.
All right. Thank you very much for that advice. I really appreciate it.
For Galaxy S9, unmute yourself, please, and go ahead. Experience, please.
So
your name, please.
Thoraya.
Thoraya. Oh, hello, Thoraya. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How
old are you?
I'm 12.
You're 12. Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
What's your experience? Are you able to talk to your parents about anything?
Well, I was going to answer the question that was asked, but I can speak about my experience too.
Okay. First answer the question, then if you have an answer, I think we'll be glad to hear it.
Okay, so when I was younger, so obviously I used to listen to a lot of nursery rhymes too, especially when we were going to school. That's how we were learning basic things like phonics in school. So all around us, everyone would be dancing or listening to nursery rhymes pretty much every day. But also at home, I also listen to nasheeds. So I used to watch this channel. I don't know if it's still there, but it was called Learning with Zaki. And he used to teach about stories from the prophets. So you can listen to those. Also, nasheeds about learning how to do wudu, learning how to pray. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. And another person has texted in the chat room to say, to answer the sister's question, there is Omar and Hannah Islamic Nursery Rhymes. It's very educational in terms of teaching about different aspects of the deen. That is for the Muslim children, in case you want a different one. Nursery rhymes are there for a reason as well, so they serve a reason. That's from another comment in the chat room. Remember, you can text us again, +4477205703037. And remember, this is having your conversation. Come, let's talk. Go ahead, please, with your experience in school. Are you able to communicate to your parents easily? How easy do you find it communicating to your parents?
Well, I guess it sort of depends. Like there are some things that are easy, but then also sometimes you don't want to say. So you go to other places, like you might tell your siblings or you go to your friends because some things are just more relatable. But like I guess it's easy for like basic things, like say something's happened at school. When we're having dinner, I'll tell them about my experience, what's happened in the lesson, and then they'll tell me how you can sort the situation out. But then there's other things, like say I have an argument with my friends or something like that. Normally I just keep that to myself.
But don't you think, for example, if that conversation, if that argument with your friend led into trouble and you ended up getting detention, because sometimes it starts just like an argument and then it could end up into a fight and then you get, you get detention and your parents probably might get involved at a point where probably you could have dealt with it.
Well, I think it depends on how bad you think the situation is. Like I know if I thought that someone was being very rude or attacking me for no reason, then I'd feel like, oh, I have to say something, and if something happens, then it's not my fault, and but I don't like to let this situation get that far. So I think that it's also nice to try and sort it out for yourself. But if I really think it's that bad, then I'll tell them.
Right. Okay. What would it take then for you to communicate that you've been breaking away from? I mean, telling them. Where do you decide? How do you decide what to tell your parents and what not to tell your parents? Because probably your parents would want to know everything. How do you decide what to tell them and what not to tell them?
I mean, sometimes you might just feel like embarrassed to say, or you just feel like they're not gonna understand, or you don't want to say because you think it's just like too embarrassing or too hard to say. So I guess where I would say that I need them to step in is when I feel in danger or I feel like I can't handle it myself. But sometimes you might think that you can handle it even if you can't. So maybe it is best to tell them, but sometimes you don't need to tell them everything because you might feel like you can solve it for yourself. So yeah.
Is there an element of the fear of getting in trouble?
Yeah, I think that's a big impact because sometimes if you do something like say you have an argument with your friends and you were provoked and then you'd feel scared to say that, oh, I got detention, but it's not really my fault because I was provoked. So you'd be scared that you're going to get in trouble and you don't so you just keep it to yourself. But then sometimes that can be bad because when it gets to that stage and like you might be in so much trouble that you get suspended or something, then it just makes the situation worse because if you had told them from the beginning that, oh, I think something might happen with this person because we've already been having arguments and things like that, then that could have been avoided.
Right. Oh, thank you very much for that missive. Actually, it opens us again into another territory. Again, there's the issue of understanding or not understanding coming up again. Gideon, I see the name Gideon. Can you please unmute yourself? Gideon?
While muting, can I point out something here?
Yes.
I think our young participant has also given us as parents another clue. The idea of fear of getting in trouble. So then how do we respond when your child tells you something, or how do you help them to tell you? It's really the clue is in your response. When they get in trouble, how do you respond? Because the way you respond will encourage them to tell you next time or not to tell you. So that's another clue our young person has given us. Think about your response.
Right. Thank you very much, Rahma. Gideon, you have the mic. You can see it's proving difficult to... Okay, let's go to Nabira. I think we had tried to get Nabira and it didn't work. Nabira, unmute yourself, please. Someone is saying here in the group, in the chat room, is saying, it's Prosi, I think, Prosi Sechito says, parents should stop being judgmental. All right. That's one to go about. Sometimes drawing the line between being judgmental and not is difficult. And let's see Ashura there. We just wanted to get as many experiences. We just want to hear how you handle your situation, because every home is different. The circumstances are different. The kind of jobs sometimes also influence what we can do. Ashura, you have the mic, please. Unmute yourself. Well, let's try Sister Fadila. Sister Fadila is there. Sister Fadila, please. There's a lot of quiet. Let's go. There's Sarah now. Yes, Hajat Sarah, please welcome to 75 W Radio, and it's Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira. Your point, please, on the issue of getting into the minds of our children. How do we break that barrier? Your personal experience, first of all.
Oh, wow. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Oh, my personal experience was quite a good one. I had a good childhood, though a single parent. My own mom passed away when I was pretty young. So I was single-handedly, which is unique. I was brought up by my dad, Haj Hassan Chibilege. He was a wonderful dad, and I connected superbly with him, which experience actually helped me so much in my adult life. Even I started my family here in the UK, which I easily blended in. I interpreted literally my upbringing to the way I brought my kids, and I've had a wonderful relationship with my children. Having said that, we all come from a country where you need to know, you know, much as you have a relationship with your dad, close as it is, there are always secrets. There are things which you can't disclose. You can't disclose to your dad you have a boyfriend. You know that that is not something that is going to be swallowed at any point. And my experience for that fear, things which were considered as taboo, nearly costed us lives. And you know, we really, that is things which I think influenced who I came out to be because of the experience I went through at a certain age, whereby a friend of mine ended up having, you know, a relationship. And we as children in a boarding school, this is in my school, 3 days to going home, what did we do? Because of the fear, instead of disclosing what has happened, the fear, I still had some omo, if we all know what omo is.
Yes,
and we mixed
powder.
Right, yes, the washing powder, which is the equivalent of Ariel. We mix the Ariel in a mug to wash out the possibility of this girl getting pregnant. And just before we went home, obviously, this is bleach. And she ended up in a sick bay and she ended up in a hospital. for the fear, much as I had a wonderful relationship with my dad, knowing my friend is literally dying, I could not disclose this. And I was so ill at home because when you have a very close friend and you know she's dying and you know why she's dying, I couldn't disclose that. That had a knock-on effect to what relationship I have with my children. It actually impacted on me a lot in my adulthood. What have I done which is so different when I brought those lessons here in the UK? As a very young mom here in the UK, I decided to share my day experience, which helped shape the whole relationship with my children. Every day we had to have dinner together, no matter what. We have to have family meal to look at each other. And that time is to talk about how was your day, and we laugh. You get to know if I'm sad, they will get to know, because of course I'm not in the mood because I've had a nasty day at work. They've had a nasty day at school. And then we talk about the, if there is nothing to talk about, there will be something, history. Let's talk about our family and so and so. And then the most important, like some previous speaker said, kids need quality time, not presents. Much as presents are important, it's the time you spend with your kids, which they will remember. They will remember the little walk in the park. Children, when they are 4 years old and you just stroll into the park and you show them the trees, the nature, they connect with you. The swimming we do with them, the reading of the book before they go to bed, the little songs we learned when we are little, all these things create a bond.
But when you're going to take a walk in the park, the kid will need ice cream. The ice cream van is coming around and the ice cream is needed.
Exactly.
I'm looking for the money to be able to provide that. And as a result, my absence then becomes the reason for looking for that money that I'll get to be able to go to the park. How do you balance work and life just to be able to sort of, cope with the situation?
That is very true. When you have a child, children really, sometimes you don't think, they have bigger brains than you think. So when a child knows that mom doesn't have, sometimes they are sad and you are sad and you connect emotionally. We are both sad because today we didn't have ice cream, because the money we have is better. We're gonna buy this, right? It's, really, when you have a good relationship with your child, little as they are, don't underestimate how much they take on. Children.
How would you respond? How would you respond to someone who says, someone has just said in the chat room here, in a household, one parent should be easy and calm the other. The other should be tough to balance the boat. Is that workable? Is that a workable situation?
I don't think, for me, being tougher is not an issue. It's really about understanding what you have. There is no one size fits all. With all the children, you're gonna find one child is very easygoing and wants to do everything mom does. And you're gonna find another child who doesn't want to do. So literally you need to understand your children and handle them from wherever. Most importantly, build on their strength and address on their weaknesses. If you think, a bit of, what do you call it? When you set them, a penalty, this, denying you to play that game, or we're supposed to go swimming, we're not gonna go because you've made all of us, clean you were supposed to wash dishes, you refuse to wash them, we're washing them, and we're not going to the park. Okay, all the other people are having to suffer, but the message comes through. So whether you're calling that as tough, you need to understand the children you have. There is no one size that fits all.
Everybody. Thank you very much, Hajat Sara. And I'm only for time purposes that I'm trying to get to Chris Katumba just to hear his personal experience. Chris Katumba. Chris Katumba, you have the mic. Chris Katumba, your experience, please. Chris? Let's go to Nambali Lomuna. Nambali Lomuna all the way in Germany. Yes, please unmute yourself. Your experience, please. First of all, your parents. Tough parents, soft parents.
Both.
All right.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa
Wa alaikum
barakatuh.
salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
It's so great to be here. This program is so good. What I've seen with it, that is bridging the gap between parents and children. By the way, I'm Nambadi Ramona. I grew up in Old Kampala, Madras Gardens, Uganda, Kampala, under the house of Alhaji Abdul Nsereko, and my mother, the late Hajati Nuru Nabirinzi. So loving, both of them. They were hard and at the same time soft, meaning they were good parents, but had boundaries. So loving that the only thing they told us, if you don't want to go to school, you will not live under this house. You either go to school and finish, or you get your own house. There were rules. If you don't want to follow them, go and build your own house. The rules were there. Girl or boy, we all did the same work. That is not saying that you're a boy. I have my brother, Nsereko Muhammad, honorable, but there is nothing that he cannot do that a girl can do, including cooking, because our mom could call us, all of us, come sit here.
Now, is that a skill that you would want to pass on? How would you get your own children, for example, to open up to you?
To get your own children to open up to you. By the way, we were so open with our parents. Yes, they had boundaries, but we did not fear to talk to them, because whenever I would come back at home, they would ask you, first of all, what did you find on your way? They would ask us, how did the day go? You will be, even you'll come back home when you are inquisitive to tell how the day went.
So is that the same message that you would put your own children to be able to open up?
Of course. Me, yeah. I'm a childless couple, but I've blended my sister's kids. I have nurtured them, and they have come out as good citizens. Wow. Me, who doesn't have kids, but I've nurtured my sister's kids, all of them.
Right. Thank you very much. I'm only stopping you because of time. I'm just trying to get in as many.
And one thing I want to tell you, yes, it's very important to be communicating with your child, but it depends what you communicate with them, because communication is big. Even actions, silent approvals, they are also communication. But sometimes parents are not friendly to their children. Mm-hmm. The children end up fearing to talk to them what they would have told them, and they tell it instead to the neighbor.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you very much.
So parents need to come to be closer to their children as they grow up, as they grow older. They should.
I'm only stopping you because I'm looking at the time, and I've got a couple of people that I would like to also to bring into the conversation. Thank you very, very much for your contribution and for staying at 75W Radio and on Umma Connected via Zoom and YouTube. Amri Musema, I wanted to hear from some men. It's been women. Only Jackson came on. Come on, men, don't let us down. Amri Musema, you're on the line. Amri, please unmute yourself.
Come in while you're getting the men, or do we have one ready?
Is that Rahma?
Yes, that's me.
Please come in, yeah, while we are getting Amri Musema, please get ready. And I can see JFK, I'm hoping it's a man.
I wanted to pick up from what Sarah said. Sarah spoke about the brain, and I just thought I'll share that the child's brain, by the age of 5, is developed up to 90% of an adult brain. So I think that's another mistake that we can make. Because
come again. Bring
at the age of 5,
yes,
the brain has developed 90% of an adult brain. So from 5 onwards, there is only 10% to go. So therefore, sometimes the mistake we make is we think they're children, they don't get it, but they do. So it's how we help them to develop it. And we have another saying, use it or lose it. So if you help your children to engage their brain and use it, then it develops even further and they become smarter. That's one point. The other point I wanted to bring in is, mashallah, from Eastern cultures, we have many children. We have more than one child. And I think there is an error or a mistake we make by treating our children as a group. We need to treat our children as individuals.
So each child has their particular individuality and therefore
Personality, individuality, and do not compare your children. That's very damaging. You say, you're not like him. Look at him, he got this result. Look at him, he listens. What's wrong with you? You need to understand them as individuals and engage them as individuals. So we'll let the guys come in.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Rahma. And the message here from Prosi Sechito again, if you find such a child scared of telling their parent anything, that shows you as a parent that at one time you don't listen much to their voices. As parents, you must give your children to express themselves no matter what situation it may be. Share your past with them to make them feel it's okay to talk about anything. Try to relate with your children, love them, and create that special time with them. Shifts are not going to help your children. Definitely, I think it's a very difficult balance between, between balancing between the work, availing the conditions that are favorable to run a comfortable home, at the same time being able there to be for the children. But like it was established at the start, it is presence, not presence. JFK, I hope you are standing in for the men. It's been the ladies coming in and expressing their situations. JFK, go ahead, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Just nice to hear it's a man. What's been your experience? Tough parents, tough parenting?
Alhamdulillah, Sheikh. Thanks for the good topic.
Brilliant.
It's a very nice topic.
Thank
Sheikh, mine is mainly an observation that I've seen or I've observed since you started. It's like parents are coming in to defend themselves or to show that we are good to our children. We're showing our children that we are there for them. We're doing this for our children. But for me, the observation, what I would say is, when we were raised back home, we were raised in a way where our parents were our friends, but they put boundaries. You fear to disappoint your parents, which our kids here we don't instill that in our kids. Our parents made us our friends. For me, my parents have been dead for over 20 years. But up to today, I fear to disappoint my parents. They're dead, but I fear to disappoint them. So in the UK, what we lack mainly as parents, we've taken that, instilling that into our children, putting that in our children, so that your child knows that even though my dad is not in school with me, even though my mom is not in school with me, and someone offered me something, I should not do it, because I don't like to see my parents disappointed. So that's what we need to put in our kids. That's why today you're called from school and they tell you you're 7, 6, 4-year-old said something or swore at a teacher.
Yes.
They were swearing at a teacher because your child does not have that in them. They don't fear to disappoint you.
I'm actually keeping
They don't fear to disappoint you. So parents, what I would advise.
Brilliant point. Yes, please. Yeah, go ahead.
What I would advise parents, make your kids your friends, but show your kids when you're disappointed. I have parents that I know, kids are sent from school. After a few minutes, they're buying their kids Xboxes. They're buying their kids £100 trainers.
So they are rewarding bad manners.
So you're rewarding bad behavior.
Yes.
Thinking you love this child. You don't love this child. I've heard people say, oh, because you guys were raised in Uganda, you want to raise my kids the same way you were raised in Uganda. No.
Thanks
Our parents in Uganda
I'm only taking it.
I know, Sheikh. Sheikh, can I make just this one point?
Please keep it short.
And parents, moms and dads, you need to present a united front. when it comes to your kids. If you have a problem with, if your mom punishes a child and the dad is not happy, don't show your disappointment or your disagreement in front of the child. Take it to the bedroom. Let the kids go to bed, take it to the bedroom. When the dad is not happy or the mom is not happy with the punishment, take it to the bedroom. But show the child that your mom has a right to punish you, your dad has a right to punish you.
Thank you very much.
That way,
Yes.
we will present a united front, and that's what our parents did back home.
Presenting a united front is very critical for children. And before the children, I think Rahma will come back to this just in our closing remarks. Let's get to Nabira. Nabira tried to get you and it wasn't possible at the start. Now I think we can have you. Nabira, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I agree with some points some of the parents made, but I also don't agree.
Yeah, how old are you, Nabira?
18, so I've experienced a lot growing up.
Right. What points do you agree with and what don't you agree with? It's interesting.
I agree with that. Like, when our parents argue in front of us, they're showing us like their reactions, their flaws, but it's better when they don't argue in front of us, because whatever our parents do, we end up copying.
Mm-hmm.
We end up doing that in school and getting in trouble. Yeah. And it's not a good thing, because when our parents get phone calls from school saying, oh, your child is done this, is done that, it kind of dawned on them because they did it in front of us. They showed us what they shouldn't have showed us.
Right. And do you open up to your parents? Are you free with your parents to tell them, or they are the tough parents?
Well, I've grown up opening to my mom. Like, I don't open that well to my dad because we don't have that kind of connection. Because I know the reactions that he's going to do when I try to tell him things. So I open up to my mom because she understands me from a point of view. She sees me as a responsible, capable child of making a successful life for myself.
Right. And would you tell your mom everything? I mean, every little secrets you're fine to share these experiences from school and so on?
Mm-hmm. No, I wouldn't, because my mom would not understand some things, because a lot of parents try to bring Ugandan culture to raise us, but in England it's not really possible for you to bring Ugandan culture to raise us in England, because we learn other things when we go outside. We learn things from our friends, we learn things from teachers, we learn things from different people. So sometimes it's just like, I learned this from a friend, and your parents tell you this is what they used to do when they were studying in Uganda, and it's so different to how we study here to how they study in Uganda.
Nabira, but when you talk about the issue of understanding, sometimes probably it's overrated. Because as parents, if we came from all these very difficult backgrounds and we managed to fit into the society that we live in, yes, of course, we'll have reservations and limitations in terms of how we deal with it. But when you say that a parent won't understand, how do you determine a parent's understanding even without trying them? Is it because you have communicated to them and they have failed to understand? What measure do you use to determine that the parents won't understand?
It's because, when you talk to other people like outside the school, they understand what you go through, because they go through the same thing as you. They have the same kind of problems as you, compared to our parents, because some of them don't understand. They've not studied here to understand our problems and our responsibilities that we have to handle outside of the household and things.
Well, let me hear some of the problems that you've had to face growing up, because we heard from Imkan, who made a very, big revelation, but as a boy. So from a girl's perspective, you're 18 now, growing up in this country. What sort of challenge would you say is the biggest challenge that you faced, probably? Challenges or one challenge, probably?
The challenges we face as girls is that you have fathers, but you can't tell them some of the things that you face as a woman. You can only tell your mother, because she's gone through them phases and problems. So you're able to talk to her and tell her, oh, this has happened, and you can't tell your father that this has happened, because from a male perspective, he won't understand it, but females will understand what you've gone through. If you're a lady, a female won't understand what you've gone through, but if you're a male, your father would understand what you've gone through.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much, Nabira, for that. Very revealing. I see Hasfa K, we had heard from you,
So-
but your hand is back. So
Before you bring someone in, can I come in?
yes, Rahma, please.
I just wanted to say another tip that Nabira has given us as parents.
Mhm.
She's told us that we teach by example, not by words. So it's not do as I say, but it's do as I do. So most of the behaviors and the attitudes you want for your children, you need to be displaying and portraying those attitudes yourself. That's the tip from Nabira.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Rahma. Hasfa, okay, you had already spoken. Please, we just have about 15 minutes to go. Just to let you know, and just to let you know that on this particular program, I think we'll be dedicating going forward, inshallah, about 10 minutes, a slot of 10 minutes in our 2 hours, just to dedicate a thank you. It will be called a thank you slot. And that is an opportunity for you, for example, if you have someone who has done something very special in your life, and you've never had a chance to say thank you to them, this might be your opportunity. So inshallah, every Tuesday, whenever we have this program, inshallah, we'll have that particular 10 minutes and it will be coming up probably just 30 minutes before the end of the program, where we'll have 10 minutes dedicated specifically to just a thank you. Thank you to a special person that probably you never had a chance to tell them. And because they will be here, they will be listening, they will watch back this program, they'll be able to take that home. It's quite important that we do that. As for Kay, please keep it short so that we can have more people now as we are wrapping up.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Hasfa, please go ahead.
Thank you very much for the program. This brother just talked about not fighting in front of the children. It made me remember, I had a conversation with my 17-year-old, and she told me, I never see you arguing at all. I mean, don't you get mad? You guys, it's like you're showing this sign of perfection. I need to see, at least show that maybe you're upset or something. And she said it to me, and I kept thinking, do we put up a wall of perfection to our children that to get to the point of when they make mistakes, they'll be like, oh my God, how am I going to disappoint my parents? So I don't know what Sister Rahma is going to say about that, but it just made me think that we sometimes say we portray because what we do is what they'll do, like Sister Rahma said. Yeah. But are we showing them too much perfection that we're not giving them maybe room to say they can make mistakes and then come to us?
Okay. Well, that's definitely, I think, something that we will wrap up as takeaways. Rahma, please take note of that, and we will wrap up with that. But I think also what I picked up from that particular point that I found very important, something that I've tried to inculcate within my children very, very much, is the idea of the fact that we have particular values. We have a name to protect. If someone, for example, my son or my daughter goes out and does something that is going to shame the image, they'll be saying that is Kayira's son or Kayira's daughter before they even mention their name. So because of the protection of the name, I've been working so hard in my nearly 30 years of journalism. I try to stay the line because I'm worried about the kind of image, how this would reflect upon my bigger family. And therefore, I'm thinking about the family name, and that's important. So I think what JFK brought in was the idea that inculcating these particular values that would make them really appreciate the need and the value that we need to carry the name of the family. Like Kadri here says, you'll be surprised Ugandans in diaspora want to copy English culture. At the end, they cry, let their children bring boyfriends in the home, go clubbing, eyelashes, fake nails, dress inappropriately. End of the day, they become a disgrace, both to the parents and to themselves. I think I saw Ilham there. If you can find me, Ilham, I just wanted another one. Galaxy S9 has come back, I think. We'll try to get to them, but I think I saw Ilham. I'd like to hear another child just before we can start wrapping up. There was Ilham. Let's try Joeria. I see Joeria there. If not had some people, they don't unmute us. Joeria, please unmute yourself. Joeria, you're live on 75W Radio and on Umma connected via Zoom and YouTube. Joeria, any experience to share? Right, let's check someone else because I'm just trying to buy into time. Sister Fadila had disappeared. Let's check Rashida. Was Rashida there? Sarah Virunji. Let's try Sarah Birunji and hear her experience. Sarah Birunji, you are live on 75W Radio. Hello, just Sarah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sorry, Sheikh, I'm not able to contribute right now.
Really? Are you scared
Next,
of the microphone?
yeah.
No?
I'm not in a position to contribute right now. Next time, inshallah, but such a lovely program.
No problem. Well, this is a conversation. This is a community conversation where all of us are sort of in a room and we're actually having this conversation. But thank you very much, at least, for being on. You are listening in, hoping you are taking away something.
It
Galaxy
has been a pleasure listening in, but maybe quickly, one point has been coming up from the youngsters about us parents not being able to understand them, or them not being able to come to us because they don't think that we would be understanding. I feel like we need to learn from the youngsters as well. As parents, we need to be, especially those from Africa, we listen to the children, not with a sympathetic ear, not with empathy, not to understand, but to reply and advise. So as soon as they open their mouth, you are going in with your advice and whatever you think and how you grew up. So I think that's how they pick up from us, that we are not ready to understand them. What I have learned from my children is when they come to me with a problem, however shocked I am, I'll put on a face of, oh, really? And then they tell me more. When they tell me more, that's how I get to understand what they go through at school, as teenagers, girl-boy relationships, the problems they're having. You learn from them by listening to them. Right. Otherwise, we miss out on this opportunity to learn. Otherwise, we won't learn. If I'm 40, how am I supposed to learn from a 15-year-old? Only by listening to them. I listen to what they go through, and then I understand. I'll advise them another day, not there when they're talking to me.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Now you see, you thought you didn't have anything to say. Surprisingly, when you're having a conversation, something just comes up. That's what 75W Radio is doing to you. And let's talk with Kassim Kayira. Galaxy S9, I think you had your hand up. Please keep it short. We are having only about 8 minutes to close the program.
Yeah, Jazakallah khair, Sheikh Kassim. I would say we've got a few minutes left. But I think, it doesn't matter how many people can make a contribution toward this very sensitive issue. Mm-hmm. I think the final answer is going to be a pi. It's going to be a pi, meaning infinite, because every child is different and every circumstances are going to be different. Every environment poses different challenges, which require different solutions, and so on. We are all different. But I think there is a lot to learn from this. What really actually has stayed with me is when you look at different communities and then come back to address this issue.
Yes, Sheikh Sulaiman.
What you might think to be a problem in this community is going to be a solution in the other community. And I don't know how it works. When you look at the Middle East community, I mean the Arab, especially in the Gulf, the way the amount of affection they give the children, if we did that in our community, we'd be spoiling them. For them, it works for them. And for us, if we did it, definitely would be spoiling children. Yes. And if we did try to take our approach to them, that would be amounting to abuse. That's why I think we really have to be very careful. What we do not know is whether we are looking for a local solution or a community solution or a regional solution or a national solution or a global solution to this problem. And that's one thing we really have to go back. For me, what I've learned from my children, Thuraya spoke here, and I say, speak with you from your own experience, and I've learned a lot. Children, no matter how much you could say that you know them, you will never ever know them. But just make sure that no matter how much you feel confident you know them, make a massive room for the unknown, so that when you are caught up something new, you are not surprised, because that's the reality. So, Thuraya mentioned something that I really didn't know, that you always have to think that if I was to share this with my parents, I don't know whether it might get me more trouble. Let me try to sort it out myself. And I see that often when I engage with the other children in other settings. You often come children talking to you about things they will never ever tell their parents. So I would say the solution to this is going to be a pie. So let us make reservation and room for the unknown, so that when we come across that unknown, we're not surprised, but we know it's a continuation of that pie.
Barakallahu fikum. That's a brilliant takeaway for us. 53 minutes, 7 minutes to go, and we're still taking your points. I'd like to hear from people who are actually, because we've got so many visitors who are new from the names that I can see, and I'd like to hear at least what their takeaway is. I can say TJ, please, if you can unmute yourself.
And I come in there while we're waiting for somebody to unmute.
Please.
So we had a mom who spoke before Sheikh Suleiman, and she put a question in about perfection. She said, are we showing our children, are we creating perfectionism? That I think there is a guy who said, don't argue in front of the children.
Yes.
And I think what we want to think about is, as human beings can argue, sometimes it's difficult to control. But one of the things we have a tendency to do, or what we see a lot, parents argue in front of the children. So they see the parents arguing. So they also need to see the parents being warm towards one another and making up. So they need to see both sides. That will give a balance. So if you snap and have an argument, then you also need to come back and show them how you make up. Obviously, it has to be decent, but they need to see the closeness if there's an argument, not to just show them one aspect of it, but not the other. But we can never be perfect.
Rahma, there are certain situations where it becomes difficult, especially again, it goes back to our upbringing.
No.
You see dad arriving at home, coming with this plastic bag, with containing milk or whatever that he's bringing home. You rush as the kids, pick up the bag, dad comes, sits on the chair, mother comes, kneels down and greets.
No.
And imagine that I'm coming now in a European setting where you want to fit in and you want to hug and kiss and give a peck. All of a sudden it feels like, for some people, for some husbands, it is proving difficult to even hug, and kids get shocked to see their parents, when it comes to that point of actually having to hug. It's kind of a culture shock that we have to immerse ourselves into.
And that's a very, very big problem. And that is not just for the Ugandan community, for Eastern Muslim communities, it's a very big deal. So I work with young people, and they have been young people who say to me, I don't want a Muslim husband because they're boring.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So we don't have to be doing a big indecent whatever, but you can make up, even if you don't want to hug in front of your kids. If you've had an argument in front of your kids, you need to make up, and they need to know that they've apologized to each other. This one said I was wrong. This one said, okay, you have a point. They need to know something about how you resolve that, because when they move into their own lives, they will have learned something about making up and how to make up. If we pretend we don't argue, or if we argue and don't show them that we made up, it can be confusing for young people.
Thank you very much, Rahma. We're wrapping up. I'll come to you for the minute of wrapping up. Maybe you can be thinking about how probably to summarize this entire conversation that has actually been absolutely interesting. Kiki, please, if you can come on. Kiki or Christine, whoever is ready. Kiki, the mic is with you. If you can unmute yourself, please, and keep it short, and let's get your experience, as well as Christine as well.
Hi. Hello. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
I wasn't going to speak about my own experience, but I was just going to speak about my anxieties as a young parent. I describe myself as a young parent because I've only been a parent for 10 years. And I see that as a young parent. So just listening to the stories and some of the advice that people have shared has actually reinforced my parenting skills, in that, yes, I do keep my children close, and I like to talk to them about everything. And at the moment, obviously they're still young, at the moment they seem to tell me everything, and it's just reinforced that I am going in the right direction.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Kiki. Christine, please, you can keep it short, and I'll come to Aswediq, who might be our last person to make a comment. Christine, please, unmute yourself. Christine? Christine? Okay, let's go to Asfidiq. Asfidiq, you have the mic. Your experience or takeaway from tonight. Let's look at Annette. There's Annette there. Yes, Annette? If you can unmute yourself, please, and just comment. We just have about 2 minutes to go in. Annette? Not ready. Let's go in. Let's go in. Let's just look once more. I haven't see people who haven't spoken at all. Let's see Haula Navega. If you can unmute yourself, please, Haula.
Hello.
Hiya. Take away your experience, please.
Oh, there was lots of lovely points, actually. My experience. Well, I think sometimes you can go to one parent than the other to discuss whatever problems you have. But for my experience, I feel that I have been able to speak to my parents or a parent. But when Sarah Namkasa said that she eats dinner and stuff with her children, I think that's a really good way to explain to children different circumstances that might happen in your work. For instance, those children that might be bullied or haven't got any friends, you can, say, oh, at work, yeah, I'm having troubles with my colleague and stuff. So it opens up conversations for them. Right. So if you share, like, you have to be a role model. So you have to share your own experience so that your child can see, oh, actually, it can happen to adults too. They can feel like this too, or how did you feel as a child? Did you have those experiences? That sort of thing.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay. Brilliant. We're just at exactly 10 o'clock, which means we should be wrapping up. Sister Rahma, you have 1 minute, exactly 60 seconds, just to do a bit of a wrap up for us. The kind of takeaway that parents, if a person just joined, like many people are coming to join at this particular moment in time, if they were just to take away one particular thing from this kind of conversation, how do we access our children's minds? How do we get them to open up?
I think we had the idea of connecting to your children. We had the idea of being available to your children, show them genuine interest, don't judge your children. And we need to think about what we call conversation killers. What are the conversation killers? You want to connect with your children, you want to get to know your children, you want to know what is going on for your children when they're outside the house and inside the house. Conversation killers are, you give unsolicited advice. Sometimes they just want to talk. Another conversation killer is you move into what the young people call lecture mode. So you now turn a conversation into a lecture. They came to talk to you. Now you are talking to them and you're getting them to listen. That's a conversation killer. Another conversation killer is you are relating a conversation back to your own experience growing up. Mama, this happened. Well, when I was a child, X, Y, Z. That's a conversation killer. Because what they don't want to hear your childhood experience, they want you to hear their childhood experience, and you need to understand what is that like? What does it feel for you? And finally, I think we're talking about culture, and we're talking about, I think in the messages I've seen people saying, you want to become Mzungu, Ama you're taking on Mzungu culture. I think it's very, very important for us to understand that our own cultures are not inferior. Now, when I did my master's, I did my research on culture. Now, one thing we know for sure is we are cultural beings. We are born into cultures. So what we need to do is, remember I shared with you the idea of replicating scripts, rewriting scripts, or improvising scripts. You cannot function outside of your culture. So you need to pick and choose. You can maintain your own culture as a Mganda, as a Mwarabu, as a Mswahili, whatever. And you can think about what you take. Your children are growing up in two cultures, the culture at home and the culture outside. How can you make both cultures accessible and pick and choose? Do not think that you can walk out of your culture. It's not a dress. You can't change it. You were born into it. You think through it. You speak through it. Your food is your culture. So don't think that you need to throw away your culture. You can't. My whole research was on that. So it is so deeply ingrained in us that if you want to throw it away, and the new culture that you're taking on is not really your culture, that's where you start to find a struggle. Your children don't know where they belong. We have a history of people being brought in as slaves. Their language was denied, so they removed their language from them, the slaves, the history of slavery. They lost their language, they lost their culture, they lost their religion, and they're struggling. There is an identity crisis.
Rahma, we have crashed into our minute and we must be actually closing it up. I think there are lots of takeaways, and this is a conversation that definitely doesn't end tonight. Probably it will come up at a certain point with a different topic, and then we might end up actually having to return to the very, very same points. Rahma Abdullah, thank you very, very much for making time. Thank you everybody who tuned in both on Facebook and on Zoom and keeping it this late. We thank you very much. We can't take it for granted. We know you would have had other programs, but you've made the time to keep it 75W Radio, and you've decided to come and let us talk. Thank you very much. Inshallah, next week we shall be talking about closure. So maybe we should start preparing for the next episode, inshallah, when we talk about closure, deciding actually how to get rid of that burden that is sitting in your heart, inshallah. And thank you very much. Just to remind you also that 75W Radio runs continuous programs within the week, programs that on youth, on different perspectives. Just as Ummah Connected will be starting Wednesday, tomorrow, Thursday, and then Friday we pick up with UMC Darasas with the Quran recitation on Friday. Saturday, very interesting different sheikhs coming on, and then on Sunday, as usual, Sheikh Sekade, and then later on, Abu Najiba taking the next session on the Sunday. Monday, now it has become a Dawah day where different programs are also coming in, but keep it Tuesday, inshallah, here on Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira. Thank you very much for a very brilliant weekend, and I hope you have a very good night. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.